The comments heard on The View from a Pew are those of Mac McCoy and are not necessarily the opinions of his guests, his producer Garth, any one particular denomination or religion, the church lady, Mr. Lemke, Pastor Craig, or anyone else of sound mind and body. Now, here is today's The View from a Pew, heard all around the world on YouTube. Just search for The View from a Pew.
And thank you, Emily, and welcome back to The View from a Pew. I'm Mac McCoy, and I sure appreciate you taking your time to listen to our programs every day. We simply teach the Bible. We don't get into tough conversations about all the things that people like to argue about. I just follow Jesus, and I love him, and I do what he says. And I will tell you what I always say. I don't care if you're gay, divorced, you had an abortion. I don't care if you went to prison for murdering your mother. I'm going to love you because Jesus loves you. So if you ever want to sit down and talk to a Christian who's not going to judge you and is just going to meet you where you're at, I will volunteer to do that for you if I can. All right, so we are in the midst of our weekly program, and today I've got Pastors Craig and Leandra from the Water's Edge. And the Water's Edge is at 196th and Harrison, and services are at 9 and 10:30 on Sunday with tons of classes for the week. We're talking about the latest series that we just went through called Red Sea Road. And the person that wrote this curriculum is Leandra, and she's with us today. And they did a very good job of talking about Moses, the Israelites, and what was happening to them. But I think what I love so much about this series is you brought it to us with one simple word: stuck. Because throughout this series, you pointed out how Moses was stuck. But you were excellent, by the way, Leandra, that you got us all thinking about what we were stuck on. You even drew that little map that we could put on there. Mm-hmm. Did people come up and say to you, hey, I figured out what I'm stuck on, and thank you?
Yeah, I heard from a lot of people of what their response was, and then in my small groups, so our small groups went through this together, and we all shared, here's where we feel stuck. I think the obvious one, a lot of people said work. I'm not feeling fulfilled at work. This isn't my dream job. There's no promotion. So I think that was an obvious one. I think another one that came up a lot for people were in relationships. So like my marriage is in a funk. We're just not really connecting. It's not horrible, but it's not great. And I just don't know what to do anymore. For a lot of people my age, I have 3 little kids, and parenting was a big one of, my son or daughter is going through this or struggling with this. And I've tried everything, and I've read all the articles and watched all the videos, and nothing seems to be working. I just don't know what to do anymore. So a lot of relational things, or even a relationship that was broken, and I want to repair this, but we've had the conversation 100 times and nothing changes. And like, how do I, get to the point of forgiveness, or how do we put this back together? I think relationships was a big one. And then the other one I heard from people was health issues. So like they had something going on, and I've been to the doctor and they told me this and it didn't work. I went to another doctor, they told me this and it didn't work. Or I keep waiting for it to get better and it never does. And I think people feel really stuck in that cycle of doctor's appointments and nothing getting better.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, and I was hearing schedules a lot, that people just were overscheduled, but they really couldn't get out of anything that was on their schedule. So they work a long day, then they take the daughter to dance practice, and they pick up the son from baseball or try to catch the last few innings of a game, and they just really felt stuck that they didn't really have any discretionary time.
You used a great example. A few months ago, you got this little teeny puppy that weighed about 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And what kind of dog is it?
She is in Newfoundland, and I think she was probably 18, 20 pounds when that picture was taken. She's probably 8 to 10 weeks at the time, and she just wanted to come and just basically sit on my lap. She's 65 pounds now, and she still tries to do the same thing. But she, perched herself between the couch and the chair, and then, she got stuck there. I got up. I thought it was funny, so I went to take her picture. And she couldn't go back or she'd fall. She couldn't go forward or she'd fall. She was just stuck. and then I had to actually go lift her. I mean, she was just a little puppy at the time. But I think that's how we get in life, though. Like we kind of get. I think in one of the sermons that I did, I talked about really being between a rock and a hard place, and that's what the people of Israel were. And a lot of us, if we look at some of the things Leandra talked about or the scheduling that I talked about, we do find ourselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think that was really one of the beauties of this series, is it was just very practical in that way.
Yeah, it was. My guests today are Pastor Craig and Pastor Leandra. They are the pastors, or two of the four pastors, at Water's Edge, which is 196th and Harrison here in Omaha. Services at 9 and 10:30 and throughout the week, children's programs and just wonderful stuff going on. So, so you had a picture of Helga with back feet on a chair, and then over here the front feet on the couch.
Yeah.
And you used that as an example of being stuck. That's brilliant. I mean, of course, not everybody, but a lot of the congregation knows who Helga is now.
Yeah.
Because she roams around the church and wanders into rooms. She's just amazing. So when everybody saw that there, it just made a lot of sense. Oh, my dog's stuck. This isn't just me and medical bills or marriage. My dog's stuck. And that's how easy it is to get stuck. Why do you think that God punished Moses?
Well, I think Moses made choices that led to that punishment. I think God set the clear boundaries. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. And Moses was the one that made the choice to do some of those self-destructive things. So I think God set the parameters. I think Moses was the one that chose to break those, and then he suffered the consequences. I don't think it was God necessarily waking up one morning and saying, I'm going to punish Moses for this. I think it was Moses saying, like, I did something wrong here, and I'm going to have to live up to what I did here.
But in the end of Exodus, he still builds the tabernacle. I mean, he got all those people to build this amazing tabernacle. So didn't he kind of reach this? I'm not trying to change theology, but didn't he kind of fulfill God's desire of what he wanted him to do by building the tabernacle?
I think the end of Moses' story, where he's up on the mountain and he's actually looking out at the promised land, and then they kind of describe his death as like very peaceful, actually. And I don't think Moses in that moment was like feeling, oh man, I've been punished and I'm not going to get this. I think he kind of had the realization that he got to experience an even better promised land of having such a close relationship. I mean, he got to talk to God. The things he got to experience, the things he got to do, that God was doing through him. So in a way, it kind of reads as like one last lesson for Moses of the real promised land wasn't a physical location, is actually this relationship.
Yeah.
And I think on top of the mountain, it feels like Moses realizes that. And, it says he kind of died peacefully and content, not going to the physical location, but knowing he got to experience something even better.
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
Well, and even like when people got to Israel, like things were not perfect. So things weren't any easier for Joshua than they were for Moses. I think though for Moses, like the reason we relate so well to him is he's like a lot of us. So with Moses, we see a lot of faithfulness. We see that he does really some amazing things. But, there's times when Moses makes excuses like, who am I that I can do this? There's times that he's disobedient. So one of the beauties of, doing some work with Moses in the Bible is that there's a Moses in all of us.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? When Moses finished the tabernacle some years later, well, I guess a lot of years later, he showed up with Elijah. Am I right on that? I know there's a name for this, but I can't think of it. When Jesus and Elijah and Moses were all together in this scene.
Yeah, so that's in the Gospels, and that would be known as the Transfiguration.
That's right.
And, there he's lifted up as a giant of faith, as he should be.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to change theology. I couldn't do that. But in a way, he did reach. the promised land, because here he is with Elijah. And Elijah also did not die, correct?
Yeah, and he was there with Jesus, and when Peter and was it Peter, James, and John,
I think so.
or was it just Peter? I think it was just Peter. They didn't want to leave the mountain because they were in the presence of God, and so like thousands of years later, like Moses was still in the presence of God. He was with Jesus on the mountaintop.
Yeah. What was the purpose of that event?
So the tabernacle or the transfiguration?
The transfiguration.
I think it was to give. The disciples a glimpse of what God's glory could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the promised land.
Yeah, they didn't want to go down. I mean, they wanted to stay up there, and I would have wanted to stay up there as well. But Jesus is like, you can't stay up here. You have to go back down to where the people are. So it kind of gives us a glimpse of some of our rhythms as followers of Jesus. Like there's going to be some of those holy moments, and we want to stay in those holy moments. But God is saying, okay, you've experienced a holy moment. Now go and love and serve the world, and share my kingdom and bring people into my reign.
Well, I thank the two of you for coming on and talking about this. As I said earlier in the program, if you hear this program and you'd like to look into this sermon series for yourself at your own church, Water's Edge doesn't charge anything for that, and you could reach out to Craig or Leandra. And if you'd like to go to Water's Edge sometime, just let me know, and I'll meet you there, and we'll get you a donut and some hot coffee, and you'll be quite blessed.
Yeah, check out the resources online. Everything's on there and there for free. So it's just weomaha.com. And once you get to the main page, it's really easy to get to the sermon pages.
Before we leave, take a couple minutes, you guys, and talk to me about the prayer path. I know this was, first of all, was it a coincidence that this was finishing about the same time you finished Red Sea Rose?
Yeah, those two events were totally independent of each other. There's still a big planting day a few weeks out, and there's still some additional construction. We are doing a sermon series in July on prayer, and that will have more to do with the finishing of the prayer path, but these were two separate events.
Okay. Well, and I've never seen a prayer path like this, and I've seen a few of them. And so I would encourage you to go out to Water's Edge anytime, 24 hours a day. Well, probably not tonight, the nighttime, and follow the path. It's a quarter mile long, even though it doesn't leave probably an acre of land.
Yeah, it's very compact, and when we designed it, we designed it based upon the land we had, but there's going to be over like 10,000 plants. There'll be dozens of trees. There's benches. There's a cross. There's a sitting area. It's just a really cool place. And there's devotions that we have to lead people through that. Those are on the website as well, weomaha.com.
Well, the prayer path is excellent. The church also has the bags. I call it the bags, but it's cornhole.
Cornhole, yeah.
Okay. And then you have a sand volleyball net. Mm-hmm. You have grills, or at least one grill, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you've got a whole park for just kids. And all of this is not just for people who attend but for the neighborhood and for the community.
Oh, it's for anybody, and it's just really cool. You see so many different people from so many different walks of life out there in the evenings just enjoying the property. And it's just our way of extending hospitality to our neighbors. We really feel in the same way that Jesus would do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and we are really a neighborhood church. I mean, a lot of people come to this church that live right around us, and that's awesome. Well, I thank the two of you for coming on today and talking about the Red Sea Road. Sometime what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring a video camera and walk the prayer path with you.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And then put it into one of a program so people can see it.
That'd be really cool. Do it live on location.
Yeah. What do they call that? FaceTime, I think. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for the two of you coming in today. I appreciate it. I've been bugging you for a few weeks, and appreciate that you finally agreed to do it. Just remember that wherever you want to find Jesus, you'll find somebody like this church or other people that are there to minister to you. It's not just the pastors. It's not just the elders. It's Jesus leading us all to worship Him. And thanks for listening. to The View from a Pew.
Find Truth Christian Store, where you'll find more.